Hello and welcome to the latest in our webinar series. My name is Sam and I'm one of the support team here at Nexudus. And today we're going to be taking a look at Jitsi and Zoom and how you can use these virtual conferencing options to engage with your community. This webinar is going to last around 20 to 25 minutes and we'll be taking questions throughout. Just please ensure that any questions you do have, you enter within the Q&A function on Zoom rather than the chat function. As with the previous in our series as well, you'll be able to find the recording of this webinar on learn.nexudus.com. Okay, so as mentioned, today we're going to be looking at some of the virtual conferencing options we have in Nexudus. Specifically, we're going to take a look at the update that we've made to our Zoom integration before moving on and taking a look at Jitsi, which is our new video conferencing integration. When we look into Jitsi, we'll first go over what Jitsi actually is and how it can be integrated into Nexudus. And then after that, we'll see how it can be used to generate virtual rooms when meeting rooms are booked. And then we'll take a look at managing always-on virtual rooms and how you can use those with teams and individuals as well. Okay, so first up, we're going to take a look at the update that we've made to the Zoom integration. Just before we do move on and take a look at that, just want to mention that we've covered the main part of our Zoom integration in a previous webinar. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, please go to learn.nexudus.com and you'll be able to find the recording of that and our other webinars on there. Okay, so the update we've made to the Zoom integration is related to meeting room bookings. And it essentially gives you as an admin the option to connect a licensed Zoom account to each meeting room that you have. So it's, when I say a licensed Zoom account, that is essentially any paid option that Zoom does have. So it would need to be a paid account that you link to a meeting room. And each of those meeting rooms would need to be linked to a completely separate Zoom paid account. Okay, so I'm just going to move over to our Nexudus dashboard here. And we'll be able to take a look at how we can integrate that and how we can actually use it in practical terms. So if we just go to inventory and booking resources, and we'll take a look at our DVI room here. When we scroll down within this details page, we'll see that we have the option here to connect this room to Zoom. So one important thing to note here, as I've just mentioned, is that each resource that you have will need to be connected to its own Zoom account. So that Zoom account can't be used to host any other meetings. It has to be just for this room. So if I connect to the DVI room, for example, I then wouldn't be able to connect that same Zoom account to the HDMI room here. It has to be a completely separate Zoom account. Okay, one thing I would advise here, when you are connecting these, just go to your Zoom account on the web and just make sure that you're not logged into any account. So I'm just going to log out here, so sign out of my Zoom account, just to make sure that when we do connect the account, we can make sure that we're definitely logging into the correct Zoom account. Okay, so when I click connect this room to Zoom, we're going to be redirected to the Zoom website, where I can then choose which account I want to actually log into. So I'm actually going to log into the DVI room here, because that's the Zoom account that we want to connect to this room in Nexudus. So an extra step that you will likely have there is just needing to authorize that connection after you've logged in. But because I've already connected this DVI account to a Nexudus room, it's already authorized that. It's just going to do exactly the same thing after you click authorize. It's just going to send you back to this page on Nexudus. And if we scroll down here, we can now see that the option has changed to include a Zoom meeting link in all bookings made for this resource. So that is pretty much it in terms of setting up that integration. But just before we move on now and make a test booking, I'm just going to go to settings and notifications, just to take a look at the booking notification template and the visitor notification template, just to make sure that those emails do actually include the Zoom token. So we can see here that we've got the Zoom token. That means that when the URL is actually generated for this meeting, it's going to appear in that email template. Let's just check our visitor booking notification as well. and we can see that that is there as well. One thing to note here is if you've made any customizations to these templates, even if it's just adding a space, you will need to come in and add that token yourself. We can only push these token updates to web templates that have, email templates that have not been customized at all. Okay, so let's go out of that. And now that we know that those tokens are in there, we can now go and log in as one of our customers and just test this booking out. So let's log in as Kieran here. So access account. And then we'll just go to bookings and find a room. And then obviously we just need to find our DVI room because that's the one we've set up that integration for. And just whilst I'm here, I'm just going to add a visitor, just so that when we check those emails, just to make sure that the links are generating, we can just obviously see that that is working for both of our templates that we've set up there. Oh, sorry, I've just put that in the full name. Just copy it over to the email there. One other thing to note whilst we're on here is just this connect to your Zoom meetings account option for the customers. So this is essentially relating to our already existing Zoom sort of bookings integration. That is the Zoom for bookings, and it's more of a customer type one, where the customers themselves can connect their Zoom account and generate links that they would then be hosting the meetings. So it's a similar but slightly different way of connecting. If, for example, you had the integration set up on DVI Room as we have done, as we've displayed, and the customer also connected their Zoom meetings account, our system's going to default to the customer hosting that meeting. Okay, so I'm just going to save this booking. That would have triggered the booking confirmation and the visitor booking confirmation because we've selected a visitor in there as well. So if we just go to settings and email queue, we'll be able to see these emails. So the email queue here, this is where we see all emails that have been sent to customers and other users from the system. So as we can see, we've got Kieran's booking confirmation here. And we can see that that Zoom meeting room link has been generated as expected. And if we just check the guest as well. Yeah, so that's perfect. So that when you set this up yourselves, I would always recommend just making a test booking just to make sure it generates as expected, but there should be no issues as long as you include that Zoom token within your email templates and have connected an account to the booking resource. Okay, so just before we move on to Jitsi, I just want to reiterate those differences between the new Zoom for meeting rooms integration and the Zoom for bookings integration that we already had. The main difference is that the new integration for the meeting rooms, that is you as an admin connecting a licensed Zoom account to each room so that your customers don't need to connect their own Zoom accounts to Nexudus. The Zoom for bookings integration, the existing one that we already had, that is just the customers themselves would need to connect their Zoom account. And we cover that in our original webinar. So again, if you'd like to look at that more in depth, please take a look at that previous webinar. And just another note, just to clarify, if both of those are active, so if you have that set up for a room and the customer also has it set up for the Zoom for bookings on the members portal, we will always default to use their Zoom account rather than your admin one. Okay, so now that we've covered that sort of update to our Zoom integration, we can move on and take a look at the Jitsi integration. Just as sort of an overview here, Jitsi provides a secure remote conferencing and online meeting service, and it's a completely free open source solution. Nexudus connects to Jitsi in two ways. The first of these is via meeting room bookings. in a similar way to the Zoom integration that we've just looked at. And the second of these is via always on virtual rooms. And we'll take a look at those more in depth as we move on. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take a look at the Jitsi for meeting rooms. And let's just move over to our Nexudus dashboard here. And then if we just go to settings, integrations, we'll be able to find the Jitsi integration within our video conferencing options here. And I'm just going to, for now, enable this top one here, include a video conference link in all booking confirmation emails. We'll take a look at the further options here as we move on and take a look at those virtual rooms. So I'm just going to enable that for now. And apart from just checking those email templates again, that is very much it for enabling this Jitsi integration for meeting room bookings. So I'm just going to go to settings, notifications, and templates again. And just check this booking confirmation and the visitor booking confirmation. So we can see the Jitsi token there. And within our visitor booking notification, we've got that there as well. Again, if you've made any customizations to these, you will just need to go in and manually add those tokens just to make sure that they are visible there. Okay, so like I say, it's very easy to enable that Jitsi integration. That is it. So what I'm going to do is log in as a different customer. So we'll just log in as Alex now, access account, and we can just go through that process of just testing, making a test booking. I'll also show you what one of those Jitsi sort of meeting room, virtual rooms actually looks like as well. So I'm just going to go to bookings and find a room. And we'll just do it for our VGA room here rather than the other one. And again, I'm just going to add a visitor. And save the booking. Okay, so that booking has been requested. So let's just move back over to our dashboard here. And we can go to settings and email queue again, just where we can see all of those emails that are sent from the system. And we can see that Arit's confirmation email has been sent for that booking. And we can see it's got that Jitsi link there. And within the visitor one as well, we can see that that's obviously been received as well. Okay, so one thing you might notice here is that the URL here is actually generated based on the URL of the space. That's because these meeting rooms are actually hosted within your members portal. So I'm just going to open this link here, just so that we can see what this video player actually looks like. And it's very much like you'd expect any other virtual conferencing to look like. So you can share your voice, you can share your video, and you've also got links down here to actually share access to this room as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go back out of there, go back to our dashboard. And just with those links as well, if you have created or added an additional custom domain, so you've customized your domain here, those links will automatically be based on your custom domain. Okay. Right, so now we've looked at the Jitsi integration for meeting rooms. We can take a look at the virtual rooms. These virtual rooms are always on, and they essentially enable your customers to jump into a meeting quickly without having to install any additional software. So the virtual rooms are pretty much always ready to accept participants if they are active. The integration essentially comes in 3 parts. We'll move over to the next dashboard and we'll just take a look at the first one of those to start with. So if we go to settings and integrations again, we can take a look within Jitsi here. And we've just got enable always on virtual rooms. So that's the one we're going to take a look at first, and then we'll take a look at the other 3 as we move on. So now that I've enabled this, these always on virtual rooms are essentially ones that you can set up as admins, that you can then make visible to all customers, to only members, to only contacts. and people can essentially just jump in and out of them. It's just like an open virtual conference rather than something that is closed and restricted or anything like that. So I'm now just going to go to community and virtual rooms, and we'll add a virtual room here. So I'm just going to call it the basement. We'll say that the basement is open 24/7 for all customers to socialize. So the name and the description, they're going to appear on the members portal along with the image here. So I'm just going to upload a generic image from my downloads here, just so we can have that on there. And the next option is who we want the virtual room to actually be available to. So I'm just going to leave it on all customers, but you can restrict this to only members or only customers if you'd like to. And then the final option here is just to make it active, which essentially just opens that room up and makes it available for customers to join. Okay, so now that we've set that up, we can go ahead and test it. But just before we do test it, I just want to take a look within settings, website, and templates, just to make sure our web templates are up to date and that the Jitsi integration is actually going to be visible on the members portal. So if I go to my common files and header, what I'm going to do is just click the update button here. That essentially just updates this page to the latest code that we have as a default at Nexudus, so that I can be 100% sure that the Jitsi integration is going to be added to that. Now, one thing to note is that if you have made any customizations to your members portal, I would recommend not just coming in and clicking that update button. What you should do is go to learn.nexudus.com, search for Jitsi here, and then at the bottom of this page on Jitsi, we actually have the patch file here. That has the snippet of code that you will need to add to the header to be able to actually have this integration working. Okay, so that's the best place to come if you've made any customizations. If you need any help with that, just please contact support@nexudus.com and we can help you out with that. Okay, so now that we've updated this template file, we know that the Jitsi integration is now active. I'm just going to go to the members portal here where we're logged in as Arit, and I'm just going to refresh the page just so that we can make sure it takes into account we've got that update and the integration is active. And then under the community tab here, we now have this virtual rooms button here. And straight away we can see that this always on virtual room is here. We've got the basement, we've got the description and the image. And we can see that there's no lock on it, so we can see that we've got the notification down here. Rooms marked with a lock can be accessed just by your team or yourself. This one doesn't have a lock, so it's just open to anybody. Again, if I click that, it's just going to take me through to that room. And again, it's just that standard video player that you'd expect from everywhere else. And you have the option to share those details from here. Okay. So now that we've taken a look at those always on virtual rooms, what we'll take a look at now is the virtual rooms for teams. So if we just go back to our Nexudus dashboard here and to settings and integrations, we'll be able to enable these always on virtual rooms for the team. So again, I'm just going to save the changes there, and we can just then go back onto the members portal here and refresh this page, and we should see that a team room pops up. So this Acme Limited, I know that Arit, the customer we're logged in as, is part of the Acme Limited team. So him and members of that team, they're going to be the only ones that can see this room. It's locked, they're the only ones that can access it. That is unless somebody from within this team actually wants to share the details so that they can invite other people in. So we can see we've got the link here so that they can just send that link to anybody else so that somebody else can join. Okay. That link will change at midnight every day so that the link can't just be shared once with somebody and then they have permanent access. We will actually generate a new URL every day so they can't just be constantly joined. Okay, so the final part essentially of this Jitsi integration is the virtual rooms for teams. and it is very similar to the virtual rooms for virtual rooms for individuals. It's very similar to the virtual rooms for the teams. So I'm just going to enable this for our members and contacts, save those changes, and again just refresh this page that we're on when we logged in as Arex, and we can see that his private virtual room shows up here. So as with the team room, this is locked and people can only access it when Arex provides them the information to actually access it. The only difference with the Teams room and the individual rooms in terms of sharing is that this link for the room will stay the same all the time. That is going to be a permanent link, and it's the password here that is regenerated every time that Arex opens this room and starts a broadcast or starts a virtual meeting here. That password is going to be generated each time the room is launched. Okay, so again, I'm just going to leave that. So there's many ways that you can use this Jitsi integration. The virtual rooms or the always-on ones, we've been using them within Nexudus for sort of lunch breaks. Just obviously with COVID in mind, we were working from home, so we've been joining them for lunch breaks and for coffee breaks and stuff like that, just so that we can brainstorm some ideas or just basically spend time together in sort of the virtual lounge. The possibilities really are endless in what you can use them for. We've seen lots of locations already start using the Jitsi integration, basically because it's completely free and it's very simple to set up. All of these locations that we have heard from that have provided feedback, they've really told us that it's allowing them to provide an extra service at the moment. So a lot of spaces do have companies that work within them, and they're really using that Teams function just very much in the way that we are at Nexudus as well. So people can just join and socialize on their lunch breaks. They can have those team meetings and stuff like that without needing to download any additional software. Okay, so I hope all of this information has been helpful and useful for you. We're going to leave the Q&A section open for another 5 to 10 minutes to hopefully cover all of your questions. Any further information you require or any support you might need, please just either drop us an email at support@nexudus.com or take a look at learn.nexudus.com. Thank you. Bye.